Hey everybody, welcome to Trading Capital's daily live stream of the market open. Today is currently May 12th, and as we kick off another trading session, there's right now the markets are gapping up, and it's a Friday, so it's going to be an important weekly close to see what we get here. So I've noticed the markets, the S&P, the Qs, the IWM, everything is positive right now. Everything is gapping up. Couple potential little weakness in Bitcoin and crypto, as well as gold and silver miners, although gold has had a little bit of a bounce off of the lows. And if you take a look at why the markets are kind of a little bit strong today and why gold and crypto is weak, is the dollar's up slightly today. So the dollar actually had a bullish breakout of this little wedge pattern. You can see a nice flag pattern, and basically we got our little bit of a breakout right over on that trend there. So you can see that clear as day. Now this needs to consolidate at this level, but it could push higher and attack this level here. If we get an hourly close above 102.30, what is this, 102.39, call it 102.40, the dollar should put pressure on the overall indices. As of now, though, the indices are holding up, but I am expecting potentially a small little gap up on the S&P and then a potential reversal lower. So I'm just going to erase some of these trend lines. We do have a gap fill here, which we're actually above it. So we're creating a gap over a gap. And then let's just see what type of price action we get if we hold this gap up and start moving higher, or if we kind of fade it off of the open and come back down. I'm thinking we're going to fade off the open. We are creating this interesting wedge pattern on the SPY. Draw that pivot. To that pivot. But definitely a very, very tight wedge that is forming on the S&P. And I think we're going to find out today which way it breaks. I'd be very surprised if we stay in this wedge. Right now, we are at the top of that wedge, trying to peekaboo above it. But I think we may come back down and fade. In terms of some potential trades right now, I'm looking at Tesla for a short, and then based off of a consolidation pattern, we can look to go long. Tesla has some momentum to the upside because of Elon Musk announcing a Twitter CEO, a female Twitter CEO. So that's going to definitely help take some of the load off of him as a main focal point of Tesla. So Tesla's obviously gapping up. It closed at 172. It's up to 175.92. So it's definitely a strong mega cap stock right now. It's up right now on the session. 2.2% in the after hours. It was up 2.1% yesterday. So it's actually lifting the Qs. But you are seeing Nvidia slightly weak and Microsoft slightly weak. And in terms of Apple, Apple's just really flat on the session. But the level that I like for a potential scalp short on Tesla is this little 50 moving average. You do have a gap fill at 178.96, but I think we can get a push up to that 50 daily moving average around 179.82. Other than that, we can wait for a pullback. If we hit this level and get a pullback basically back to the 175 level, where it kind of is now, 175.78, we can maybe look to go long, but I'm going to look for a bullish pattern on Tesla after this initial move to maybe play a little bit of a trend. You have natural gas under a little bit of pressure today, but it's really just flat on the session. Let's just pull that up. So again, natural gas is just still really hovering at the lows here, trying to hold these key levels. You do have a gap fill down here, which is always a possibility of coming back down to retest. But you have made a lower high. Here's your low. Here's your higher low. So we'll see if we can keep that trend going. Oil's catching a big bid today. I'm actually looking at potentially XOM for a long, because oil's forming a nice little wick, bottoming wick here. Has had on the hourly chart quite a good move up, multi-hour move up. Take a look at gold. Gold has been under pressure as of late with the dollar trying to move up, but it has had a terrific bounce off the low. Same thing with silver. Silver's bouncing off the 50 daily moving average and really testing this green bar breakout. It's a big level for silver. I still think it goes a little bit lower. The last time we saw, silver break down out of some big consolidation was right around here. You had this big consolidation period Silver had two big volume reversal days. Look at this volume reversal day here. Basically breaking you outside of the consolidation range. And then look at this bleed lower. I think we're going to see something very similar to silver. Big consolidation range. Big technical breakdown on heavy volume. We should see silver fall a little bit more sideways. Now it's not going to fall down a straight line unless the dollar just absolutely blasted through. But I do think that we could see some weakness in this market at some point. In terms of other trade setups, I am looking at maybe PayPal for a long PYPL. I would prefer to see it, so it's gapping up slightly right now, 64.45. Basically, if PayPal were to come back down and fill this gap after the gap up, we could look for a long. This is a nice little intraday bull flag forming. You've closed above the 1 key moving average, so it does look like it wants to continue higher. I know some solar stocks are getting some love. End phase is gapping up. Let me see if there's a resistance level. So I'm not really seeing too much on end phase here. But we'll just continue to be keep Tesla on the radar, because that's probably going to be the main play that I like to potentially trade. And then we'll see what other market movers there are once the market opens. So we'll definitely keep our wits about us on a Friday. We don't really want to give any profits back to the market. Alright, so markets are set to open in about 8 minutes. There's not too much moving right now. It's actually a fairly muted day as of now, but it doesn't mean it can't change. We have some consumer data coming out at 10, some consumer sentiment data. So definitely be wary of the 10 o'clock time period. And again, the dollar, pay attention to that dollar because it is moving up. If the SPY was to come up into this level up here, this 414.50, it is a short, a scalp short. This is an aggressive level. You can see the wedge pattern resistance. Typically, from my experience, you don't break out of the wedge patterns from the gap ups, but you never know. It could always happen. But if we don't break out of this wedge pattern, we could be vulnerable to seeing more downside to this 408.88. But we'll see how the volume is when we open. We do have the Russell leading, which is going to be a short-term positive. In terms of sectors that are up right now, I'll just scroll through some of the sectors. So you have the technology up slightly, healthcare's up slightly, financials are up, consumer discretionary is up, communications up, industrials are up, consumer staples again are up, utilities are up, real estate's up, materials are up, and energy. So every sector is green right now, so we want to respect that. And I do think it's important to pay attention to all of those sectors. You have lumber down, copper up, oil up, nat gas down, dollar up. The emerging markets are getting hit today slightly. Banks are holding up, so the KRE is up. And pay attention to the KRE because we've typically seen gap ups and fades. So KRE is going to be interesting to watch for sure, because KRE was very weak yesterday and we're catching kind of a minor little bid. Silver's turned back to the negative side. Gold looks like it's trying to fade off of the highs as well. So nat gas is trying to move to the positive side. It's still weak right now. Oil's pulled off of the highs. Even Disney has pulled in from the highs. It was up quite substantially more. You have First Solar ripping higher today. So First Solar is gapping all the way up above this gap fill. Wow. That's a phenomenal move. This one tends to overshoot to the upside and the downside. I would only really look to short this at the 210, Pierce of 210 level on First Solar. So 210 on that. I am interested in maybe a Disney long. We'll keep that on the radar. But definitely keep First Solar on the radar. It's an interesting kind of play. It is gapping up tremendously here. I mean, it's already up over, it's about over 10% gap up. That's pretty big. That's a really big gap. So definitely First Solar for a short trade. And then off of a bullish pattern, we can go long. So yeah, the level I like on First Solar is anything above that 210. That's going to be the level to short it. You do have the 50 moving average at 203.22, which you're above right now. So it's kind of a little level. So we'll see how the market's open here. Silver's back to the negative side. And it's going to be important to see if the sectors that are positive hold their gains. That's what I'm waiting for. So really, Tesla and First Solar are going to be the stocks that I'm watching. Tesla and First Solar. Keep those on watch. 2 minutes till the open. How are the steel stocks doing today? Steel stocks are catching a little bit of a bid. The dollar's still softening up a little bit. Probably copper stocks are gapping up slightly. Aluminum's catching a small little bid. But again, aluminum stocks have had a technical breakdown with the underlying aluminum price having a technical breakdown. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Commodities certainly are signaling negative things. So the Russell's where the strength is today. I do have a short level on the Russell. It's basically all the way up at, so the IWM is all the way up at 174.40. It's quite a bit higher. All right. We have 30 seconds, 37 seconds till the open. So again, I'm watching First Solar for a short. I'm watching Tesla for a short off of bullish consolidation. Both of those are potential longs. I'm watching PayPal for a long and Disney for a long. Disney at 91, Pierce of 92. I would consider going long on Disney. All right, markets are open, guys. First Solar, Tesla, trying to push up. First Solar's pushing up, guys. So First Solar is probably on watch right now. I do like it at 210. $210 is my level on First Solar. It's hitting resistance now. Tesla's fading from the highs. S&P's running into some near-term resistance. Nat Gas is having a huge bid. Nat Gas just turned positive now. You have all sectors green. I repeat, all sectors green except the broker-dealers. Will the markets hold on to this? You have Nvidia showing a little bit of weakness. First Solar's still holding up. Tesla's up 1.8. Spiders are trying to push up. Disney's looking a little weak. All right, First Solar's coming up into this 210.38 level, so definitely be ready. I'm gonna go smaller share size on this. It's all right, guys. I'm short First Solar here. I got filled at 210.15. 210.15. Wow. That was a big push on FSLR. First Solar still. The next ad level will basically be around the bottom of this wick here. 214.30. That's a huge move. Tesla's still weakening. Nvidia's pushing up higher now. I think we can look for probably about $2 on First Solar. Spiders are still really hovering in the same spot. You have the KRE absolutely doing a reversal. So the KRE is doing a reversal. Disney's into that 91.90 level. It's piercing that double bottom. So that is a potential level to go long Disney. I'm just seeing if the market's weakened. First Solar's pushing up a little bit more now. So I'll add around that 214 level. Apple's had a big surge to the upside. Gold is surging. The Russell's pushing back up. QQQs are making a new high. So the Qs are making a new year-to-date high. PayPal, Disney's still weak, and that's coming really on the Qs pushing up by Nvidia, Apple. Microsoft's fading. Spiders are trying to push up. Alright guys, I just added to my First Solar here at 213.35, 213.35. I'll let you know my average. My average is 211.69. 211.69. Next ad level will be up at this gap, 216.90. Spiders are trying to push up. Alright, markets are ripping though. Qs are ripping. XOM's ripping. KRE is still very, very weak. Bitcoin's catching a small little bid. Wow, First Solar is surging to the upside. We should see some distribution in First Solar. Put this 5-minute candle on so we can see spiders are pulling off from the highs. Next ad level is at 216.83 level on First Solar. We're basically just flat on the trade. Nvidia's surged higher. Nat Gas is trying to push up. Disney's still weak. Nvidia's ripping. Wow, Nvidia is ripping here. And that's on the back of weak China. China's largest, one of the largest semiconductor producers, SMIC, reported not so hot earnings. And they came in weak. PayPal's still struggling. You have AMD that's acting well. Coinbase is starting to come down. Netflix is trying to move up. Steel stocks are obviously catching a bit as well. Spiders are still trying to hover near the highs there. Disney's still coming back down. Apple's seeing some near-term resistance. So First Solar is coming up to that next level. Disney's weakening here. Spiders still haven't taken out the highs. Disney just had a big dump. Alright guys, I just added to my First Solar at 216. At 216, I did add. Alright, my average now is 213, 212.98. Alright guys, we're in the money on First Solar here. This is a good little pullback. Let's see if we can get some more downside. Meta's starting to weaken here. PayPal's still weak. Disney's still weak. I'm seeing Microsoft roll over as well to the downside. So Nvidia's holding this strong. All sectors are still green today. All sectors are still green. Here we go. Here comes the pullback in First Solar. So we have a 3-6 position on First Solar. We're short. I think anything between $1.50 to $3 is feasible. First Solar's still trying to come in. Nat Gas is still holding up. KRE is still reversed from the highs. You're seeing weakness in Apple now. Microsoft's fading. Dollar's still holding up. Tesla's up 2.5%. First Solar's still strong though today. And again, even at these levels, it makes sense for a swing. Absolutely makes sense for a swing. Silver's still weak right now. Dollar's trying to catch a small little bid. Lots of distribution occurring. Tesla still hasn't had made a bigger move yet. So I'm kind of surprised at that. First Solar's still just hovering. Nvidia is still relentlessly strong right now. Coinbase is starting to roll over. AMD is starting to fade as well. So the market is seeing signs of weakness. And look at the spiders right now. The spiders are coming in pretty hot right now. So the spiders are trying to roll over a little bit. You can see that they're getting rejected at that wedge. If we don't break out of this wedge, we could test the low range. We're still watching First Solar here. We're still into this whole area. Apple just turned negative. Microsoft's negative. So this is going to be difficult for the mega caps to, or for the market to hold up if the mega caps are reversing. Even take a look at the QQQ. Qs are rolling heavy here. Let's look at the IWM. That's holding up. KRE getting a little bit of a bounce. Up 17% First Solar. Wow. Dollar's starting to surge up a little bit. So markets are trying to fade off the highs. I'm seeing weakness in some of the mega caps. Spiders are still weakening a little bit. So First Solar's still holding up here. First Solar is still holding up. Let's take a look at the spiders. They're still holding up. I'm seeing weakness in Apple though. That is starting to fade a little bit. Disney's had a move off of that level, so anyone that took Disney for a long, that 91.90 level was a stellar level. So I said 91.90 and you've got a big reversal. So First Solar still acting extremely strong at these levels. It looks like it's going to fill this gap right now. Alright, so First Solar just filled that gap. Spiders are getting a big jolt higher. So spiders are getting a big jolt. All sectors are still green. Copper stocks are still slightly weak. VIX is getting crushed today. McDonald's, Coca-Cola's up. So First Solar did fill that technical gap. We'll see if we can get some downside. It's going to have to probably take a market move to do so. China stocks are gapping lower. Nat gas is still trying to turn positive, and it looks like it wants to break out actually, Nat gas. There's an interesting trend line. Apple's just fading now from the highs. AMD's weak today. So AMD is weak. Netflix is trying to break out. Potential 10-minute topping tail forming on First Solar. PayPal did fill that gap to the downside. It is at a long level, but you're inside of this bearish bar, which makes me a little nervous. But you did hold this major pivot. So this is still bullish consolidation occurring. And the spiders are looking very strong right now. They're trying to move back up to the upside. So let's look at the spiders here. We'll see if they still haven't taken out that high. And Apple's lagging, but Tesla's strong. Apple and Microsoft are lagging today. And Meta. Nvidia's pulled off of the highs. Again, with Apple and Microsoft lagging, it's very weird not to see these markets fading from the highs and actually seeing the S&P break out. So you did get a 10-minute tail candle on the QQQ. So the Qs did put in a 10-minute reversal. But the spiders are holding up and they're trying to break out. First Solar is now coming back in. We are putting in a potential 10-minute topping tail. Let's see what we can get on First Solar. I think we could get a move back down to 207 on First Solar. I really think that's feasible. Let's mark that other gap in. Even back down to 210. So if we get down to 210 on First Solar, I'm going to protect my trade. Apple's fading, new low on Apple. So this is going to drag down the S&P. This is going to drag down the overall S&P. So I'm looking for a stop loss protection at that 210.50. I even think we could get back down to about 207 on the chart. I would not be surprised if we get back down to 207 on First Solar. But it's strong right now. It's very, very strong. You did get a 10-minute topping tail. Well, sorry, it hasn't closed yet. Has not closed yet. Microsoft's still weak. Disney's moving up. Let's do a quick check on Google. Google's still holding up fairly well. Nvidia's trying to move up. AMD's still pretty much at the lows of the session. Apple just made another new low. Microsoft's fading. Spiders got rejected at that high. The Qs are kind of struggling with Apple and Microsoft being weak today. The big question is, will we see the dollar break out of its consolidation range today? Or will Apple and Microsoft firm up to take this market higher? First Solar's pushing up even higher right now. Next ad is going to be 219, a pierce of 219. This is the high on the chart. But 219 I will add again. So far, First Solar is outperforming. Amazon's negative, Apple's negative, AMD is negative, Tesla is positive, Disney's moving up, Nvidia is still positive. So it's not all strength in this market. There is weakness. Meta just had a big dump to the downside. So that's looking weak. First Solar's still very strong. Apple's still fading. Microsoft's still fading. And the market's actually holding up well considering those stocks are weak. Nat Gas is still positive on the session. Meta's seeing some more downside. Spiders are now seeing some more downside. Apple just caught a big bounce. Spiders are still coming in slightly. Let's look at the Qs. We have data coming out in 13 minutes. First Solar's pushing up. I will add to that 219 level. Look at this strength in First Solar, but the spiders are weakening. Meta's coming down. Microsoft's still falling. Disney's now falling. Clear relative strength in First Solar. Apple's falling sharply. Look at this QQQ. Qs are going negative. Boom. Big drop now on the Qs. Spiders are fading, but First Solar's still acting well. So people are flooding into First Solar, and they did do a buyout of another company, small European. I just added a 219.03, guys. 219.03. Brings my average up to 214.46. This one we may have to hold overnight. It doesn't even make sense why it's up, because they're actually spending some of their cash on a new company. And the company was a fairly small acquisition though. But usually when a company announces a buy, it's a kind of a share dilution process. Look at this fade on the spiders. Wow. It's going to be difficult for First Solar to hold up. Look at that fade on Apple. Apple's just getting pummeled right now. AMD's negative. That's going to gap fill. You have Nvidia turning basically negative. NVDA. That's rolling over. Microsoft is weak today. So big sell on the spiders right now coming in. And we'll see if we get any sort of a bounce at all. First Solar still holding. Oil's got a nice tail candle forming. VIX is starting to creep up a little bit. Spiders are getting a small bounce here. Home builders are still resilient. Commercial real estate is slightly weaker today. Meta's weak today. AMD's super weak today. First Solar is definitely a stubborn one. The Russell's seeing some selling pressure as of now. CVS is gapping up today. That's holding up. So healthcare stocks are seeing some strength as money's moving defensively. Ooh, Eli Lilly's into a short level. Wow, Eli Lilly. What a surge. What a surge. Interesting. Keep Eli Lilly on your radar for a short. This is the short level. 444 is a definite short level on Eli Lilly. But it's a strong stock right now. I'm going to see how it handles the rest of the day. First Solar continuing to remain strong. Looks like it's pushing up to that double top. What a move on First Solar. 19.7%. No pullback really. Meta's still seeing some weakness. Meta's actually down 0.5%. First Solar still acting well. The spiders had a pretty big bounce there. Big bounce on the spiders. Look at this move. First Solar still acting well as well. So the spiders are still bouncing, moving up pretty sharply. They're still stuck in that wedge pattern, but they're trying to move back to the top of the wedge. Apple's still under a little bit of pressure today. The dollar's pulled off of its highs just a tad. Silver's trying to bounce a little bit. SLV. Amazon's still negative. Apple's still negative. Tesla's up 2.9. Hasn't hit our level yet. XPEV is down 7.9. Nvidia's just slightly positive. Disney's slightly negative. Google's slightly positive. So a few of the AMD's down 1.26. Wow, First Solar's pushing up more now. First Solar, I'm going to add here at 221.50. 221.50. Just going to do this. So my average is now 216.64. Spiders are still acting well. No pullback in First Solar yet. Apple's still trying to hold up. Spiders are still near the highs, but off of the highs. Just incredible strength in First Solar. These valuations are still very extreme. Very extreme. Microsoft's catching a little bit of a bid right now. You have Bitcoin trying to move up as well. Coinbase, AMD's still weak. Meta's still weak. Disney's weak, PayPal's weak, Apple's still weak. Costco and Walmart are strong. China stocks are trying to bounce a little bit here. GDX is holding at the lows. Dollar's still up on the session. The dollar's up right now 0.19%. It is putting in bullish consolidation, so we have to be mindful of that. If you take a look at the spiders, they're pretty much trying to fade, almost making a lower high. The dollar is consolidating to move higher. If the dollar falls, your next support would be here, this previous breakout bar, but we did get a confirmation breakout on the hourly chart, which does make it more favorable to continue to move higher. Wow, look at First Solar. So it's pulling off of that double top. Honestly, I still could see First Solar coming back down to 210 today, maybe even 207 if the markets start breaking down, but clear relative strength sometimes is difficult to fight. All sectors are still green except for technology. XLK just rolled over, and Nat Gas is trying to move a little bit higher now. There's actually a breakout trend line I'm watching on Nat Gas. If we can get above it today, let me show you this on Nat Gas. And again, Nat Gas and the dollar have been moving in tandem, so if we see Nat Gas moving up, it could also signal that the dollar wants to move up. So this is a cool trend line I'm watching. If we can get a close above this trend line, Nat Gas has a big potential squeeze up to about 238. So we're talking about a potential, another 3.5% move. Wow, look at this beautiful surge in First Solar. I'm going to go to the daily chart just to show you how high this is going. An incredible squeeze. We are running into this trend line now. 22% up. Wow. It's just a monster. It is an absolute monster, First Solar. We're up at 224 on First Solar. 224. And it is squeezing. So First Solar is piercing that trend line, but that is decent resistance. Let's look at its counterparty, EMPH. EMPH definitely not as strong, but still holding up well. Let's look at that TAN ETF. TAN is getting a big surge to the upside. And First Solar is the heaviest weighted stock in the TAN ETF. What a move in First Solar. Apple's trying to hold up. Technology is still slightly negative, but every other sector is positive, so the Qs are lagging today. What a move on First Solar. Let's look at natural gas. Natural gas is trying to break out. We have an hourly bullish close above this pivot, and that gas could squeeze. Very interesting. Let's keep our watch on the spiders as well. I'll let you know if the Nat Gas chart gets that little breakout. We have consumer data coming out, sentiment data coming out in like a few seconds. Which here it is. Wow, big drop on the spiders. Look at that. Big drop on the spiders there. It's getting bought back up. Dollar's spiking up. Dollar's spiking. Nat Gas got a bullish hourly close. First Solar's still pushing up. So that was a big dip. First Solar's still going. The stock is an incredible beast. I'm going to add here to First Solar 227.38. That is my final add. I will hold this overnight. 227.38. Brings my average up to 218.76. 218.76. So spiders had an initial move down. Apple's seeing some more selling right now. Spiders are trying to see some more weakness. Meta's weak right now. Nat Gas is still holding up. First Solar's still holding up. Wow, First Solar's up on this session 24%. Markets are breaking down here though. Spiders are about to turn negative. The Qs are negative. The Russell's having a big reversal. So the Michigan consumer sentiment expectations of 59.8 came in at 53.4. Basically a big miss on the May data. So we'll see how, obviously the market's not taking that well right now because you're seeing the spiders fall. Look at even Apple. Apple's leading the charge to the downside. You have Microsoft holding up. Nvidia is trying to make some new lows here on the session. AMD is another very weak semiconductor coming up into gap fill. This is a potential long trade. Now First Solar is starting to come in a little bit, just a tiny little bit. Spiders could, because this could be a failed breakout of the wedge. We could see a move back down to the low end of the range around this 410. But a lot of buy the dip in this market, and it's not a straight one-way train. You still have the VIX negative, so that's a little interesting. A 10-minute topping tail on First Solar is forming, but this stock is so strong that we just have to wait to see what candle formation appears. Google turned negative, Amazon's negative, Apple's negative. Tesla's really one of the only mega caps positive. Apple new lows. Spiders are still seeing buy the dip. And did we fill that gap on the spiders? Yes, we did. So that's why there were people waiting at that gap. It's very minor, but it seems like there's so much buy the dip mentality in this market again. It's actually kind of scary. Coinbase is coming down. AMD is still one of the weaker semis. AMD, believe it or not, has a downside target to about $92, which could hit today. Big drop on the spiders. Big drop on the spiders. Nvidia making new session lows. We do have a 10-minute tail forming on First Solar. We will see if that continues. Tesla never hit our target. Nvidia is making a new low. QQQ is seeing a big dump as well. Take a look at the Qs. The level I'm watching on the Qs. Do we break this trend line at all today? If we break this trend line, you could see a move basically back down to this trend line over here. So Qs are breaking. You can see a move down to the Qs if we get a trigger. Look at this breakdown. Even First Solar is starting to come in a little bit. Spiders, Qs turn negative, spiders turn negative. Spiders are still acting weak. Qs are catching a little bit of a bounce rate. You got a bearish close on the Qs. Apple's at the dead lows. Nvidia's at the lows. First Solar, Meta's falling sharply here. IWM's reversed and gone negative. So could we see a bad weekly close in this market? It is certainly possible. It is certainly possible, but we've seen so much buy the dip mentality coming into this market that we just have to wait and see and respect the price action. So not many people are paying attention to that consumer sentiment. First Solar still holding up very, very well, even in the market is falling. So it seems like money's just trying to hide right now. The VIX is still negative, which is kind of weird right now. That's a little interesting. Spiders keep falling. Nat gas is still falling. KRE is absolutely negative. Look at these sell-offs in the queue. So we're getting a bearish close. Can we confirm below this low? That's the big question. And we may have to hold First Solar overnight. The stock is just absolutely gone parabolic today. And I still think it's toppy up at these levels, although it is trying to break out on us here. So a little bounce coming in. Coinbase is negative on the session. Apple new lows. Nvidia is still coming down. Tesla's still weak. Netflix is starting to see some distribution. Home builders are still holding up. Massive volume on First Solar today. Spiders are catching a small bid here. Tesla's even almost rolling over to the downside. Amazon's down 0.8. Google's just flat on the session. Russell's catching a small bounce. So is Bitcoin. Dollar's still putting in consolidation to potentially move higher. But again, it's weird that the UVXY is lagging. Take a look at natural gas again. Natural gas is still trying to hold this breakout level. You can see on the smaller term time frame it's getting rejected, but it's trying to pierce through that level for nat gas. We'll see if we can get it. Spiders are still trying to hold on to that gap fill. Apple's getting a bounce. The Qs are hanging on. So now you have technology sector negative, financials are negative, consumer discretionary is negative, and communications negative, and real estate. So there was only one sector negative before that decline. Now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sectors total negative. Spiders are positive still. Qs are negative. Russell's negative. So energy is holding up, healthcare is holding up, industrials are holding up, staples and utilities is the best performing sector today. So spiders are now catching another little bid here. Nvidia is still struggling. It's now approaching that 10-10 time frame. This may be a trend day to the downside for the S&P, the overall indices. We'll have to watch it carefully to erase that gap fill. And we'll see if we lose these key moving averages and head down to the low end of the range. AMD hasn't filled its gap, but it's looking very weak. And be careful because AMD did trigger this head and shoulders. You can draw it like that, and you have triggered that. So just be mindful that semis often lead this market higher and lower. First Solar's still hanging in there, coming in slightly now. Really, it's still a powerhouse beast. Spiders are catching a bounce here now. So the dollar's trying to catch another bid higher. Meta's seeing more weakness. Alright, Spiders are seeing some more distribution. First Solar is trying to close back inside of this little trend line here. Spiders are still negative. Technology still clearly lagging. Even look at this KRE. There's still so much weakness in this regional banking sector. It's unbelievable. Let's take a look at JP Morgan. Look at that reversal on JPM. Wow. Massive move up, big dip down. Let's take a look at Bank of America. Also the same thing. If we pull up the whole XLF ETF, big move up, reversal. Alright, so basically my cover target on First Solar is going to be around 210. 210. I am, full disclosure, swing shorting this now with my members, and I am potentially, I will hold this overnight, what I'm trying to say. I will hold First Solar overnight unless it has a big fall at some point today. But 210, I'm not going to add any more until the market really opens on Monday. But 210 cover I'm looking for, which would net us basically a gain of about 3.7%, 8.16, and I have 51. I have 300 shares here on First Solar. Sorry, I have a double thing here. I have 300 shares on First Solar, so we're looking for a gain of about, what is this here? $8.16. So that would be about 2,400 on us for a day trade. And that's certainly possible to hit today. It's absolutely possible. That's kind of what I'm expecting here. The stock has a tendency to overshoot. I did warn everyone before getting into this trade. We've traded it numerous times with success. Obviously this one's against us right now, but sometimes you just got to be patient. You know, you can't get spooked out. You got to trust the technicals. Can it go higher? Absolutely it could. But if the markets start breaking down, we should see more weakness in this name. Alright, so Spiders are still hanging on to the positive gains. Let's do a quick volume check on the Spiders right now. So on the Spider daily, we have 9.9 million shares. That's kind of light. You know, it's not bad, but it's kind of light. That consumer sentiment also probably provoked a little bit. Long SQQ. Well, you could. I mean, if you're playing the trend to the downside, it absolutely looks like it. Right now, we are getting bearish consolidation. You can long SQQ here and just put your stop loss on the Qs above this wick high at 325.50. So for the SQQ, this absolutely looks like a long play. And then you simply just use a stop loss, basically a close back below, I would say 28.09. That's where my stop loss would be. So SQQQ long is a potential play. I know one of the chat members here brought that out. That's absolutely looks like where the Qs are going. It looks like there is a trend day to the downside. So definitely that's a good little entry on the Qs. I'm just going to watch my First Solar. I have a whole bunch of other shorts on the market. So, but again, that is a potential level. Nice spot IE or A. Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. But that is a good little observation. But just keep a tight little, stop loss on it. You don't want to let it go against you. If you want to let it have more room, you use this impulse green move as your stop out. And again, we'll look at First Solar again, starting to come in a little bit more. Basically, where I think we could see First Solar come back down to is this trend line here. That's what we were watching, that original wedge pattern on the daily, connecting these pivots. So we are back inside the wedge off of the highs. Our last ad was pretty much near the highs at 227.78, has pulled in, but First Solar is still strong and it's going to take the markets to break down. So Qs are definitely struggling at this resistance. Like I said, if you get another close below this wick, you're moving down to the low end of the range at around 324. So First Solar's coming down. We're slightly out of the money on First Solar, but just give it some patience. Look at this Dixie. So yeah, IE or A, that move on the SQQ is probably going to play out because look at this Dixie breakout. Look at this breakout. We are now trying to charge for another hourly high, which is basically up here. We'll see if we get it, but the Dixie strong. Nat gas is getting rejected. Oil's softening up. Even gold is softening up a little bit. The Qs are still holding up here. And it's really important if you're longing the SQQ to basically pay attention to the actual underlying QQQ. Because if you get a 5-minute close back inside of this trend line, then the Qs could move higher. First Solar's still hovering. Tesla's faded. Nvidia's still a little weak today. Dollar's still trying to hold up. The S&P's still positive. Qs are negative. Russell's negative just a little bit. Some sectors are trying to turn green again. Tesla's almost given up all of its gains. It's only up 1% now. AMD's still superbly weak. Wow, home builders are just astonishingly strong. Coinbase is still weak today. First Solar's coming down a little bit more now. Nvidia, Apple's testing the lows. Disney's catching a bid here. PayPal looks interesting for a potential little long trade. I'm going to try bottoming, picking PayPal here for a long at 63.31. I'm long PayPal at 63.31. And basically, my stop loss is going to be these pivots. Just a tight stop loss in case these markets start to roll over. Just to balance out. So we're long PayPal. I think we can look for a move of about 26 cents, 25 cents up to these key pivots. You'll have some good resistance basically at these pivots here and this little pivot zone over here. But tight stop loss because this market could roll over some more. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. First Solar's still hanging in there. PayPal's still trying to roll over a little bit more. If you look at the Qs, they're still fighting and they're getting rejected. So that SQQ trade is still putting in some bullish consolidation to move higher. So SQQ is looking good. Alright, PayPal's trying to move up a little bit, so are the Qs. Apple's still actually weak. Again, if we get more consolidation here, alright, I'm going to go along the SQQ as well at 28.26. 28.26 SQQ long. I'm seeing the dollar breaking out here to new highs. And again, my stop loss, I'm actually going to have a much tighter stop loss on this trade. I'm going to move my stop loss on this trade up to this 28.13. We'll see. First Solar's trying to move up again. Big bid. So Qs are still looking a little brittle here. Dollar's still at the highs. Alright, so the Qs, if we get a close above this 325.67, 325.69, I will likely just stop out of this trade. So we're short First Solar, short the Qs, long PayPal. So we have kind of some mixed plays here. Some very interesting mixed plays. Bitcoin and BIT are down. Hold tech has kept pushing up even with the money leaving. Are larger companies being resistant and eventually will fall as well? Or are mega caps like Amazon too strong? Well, I think we are going to see the mega caps fall at some point in time. I think what we're seeing is some clear FOMO into the mega caps, and we have to understand that there's funds that have to stay long no matter what the conditions are in the market. So even if they're expecting downside in the market or an economic downturn, they have to stay long. And what that does to these valuations is it just makes them absolutely overbloated as people look for cash heavy businesses, those heavy cash flow business models that Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, all of them have hordes amounts of cash, big moats to protect them from any economic declines. And you typically see these valuations go to extremes right before a bigger market downturn or economic event. So I do think eventually they're going to see downside, but you're seeing a flood of safety into these mega caps right now. And right now you have Apple negative on the session, you have Amazon negative, you have Nvidia negative, you have Microsoft negative, so a couple of the four largest companies are negative. Obviously Google slightly positive, so the mega caps negative typically take the market down lower. First Solar's pushing up some more now. The Qs are still fighting this area here. So again, I'm prepared to stop out of the Qs if we get that 5-minute close basically above this neckline, which it could be. We could see that close happen any minute now. We'll know our fate very shortly here. Alright, we did not get that bullish 5-minute close, but it's trying to move up again. So the Qs are still trying to push up, but there's clear resistance there. And the dollar's at the highs, which makes me think the Qs are probably going to see some more downside. PayPal's still hovering. We're still in that trade on the long side. Alright, spiders is now seeing some more downside. Let's see what type of action we can get here. It's now 10:25, and the spiders are starting to go back to the negative side. They are basically flat. I'm going to give you the parameters on the trade that I'm looking for. So the Qs, I'm looking for a cover basically down, or sell in my position basically down here. I do think that it could actually hit the low end of this wedge at around 320, 390, 324, but you always want to take profits into the strength or the weakness. Now, stop loss, I'm still abiding by this stop loss. If we get a close below this 328.13, preferably on the Qs, it's likely going to coincide with a close above 325.70. First Solar, I'm still short. PayPal, I'm still long. And PayPal, I'm looking for about 26 cents on the trade. Stop out on a 5-minute close below these wicks. SQQQ, my profit target on that would likely going to be a move back up to this red bar high here. So we're talking about a potential 22-cent gain. So those are the parameters of the trade. I am going to end this stream at 10:30, so I'll stay with you for another 4 minutes. If there's any other questions, I can certainly try to take them. And the dollar is ripping. So this should affect the market. When you have the dollar ripping higher like this and on watch for technical breakouts, you know, this is a pretty decent move in the dollar. You are coming up into that 50 moving average, which has rejected you multiple times. But notice how you did get above it here, and then you failed. Now I think you should hold above that level as we progress a little bit higher. First Solar, markets are still acting well though. So Qs are still at that resistance. First Solar's back to the high side pretty much. PayPal's just lagging around. That's pretty much it. Nothing else new to report. Markets are kind of just stuck. I think we're going to see a bigger directional move very shortly here. Even the yields are starting to move up. You also have strength in natural gas, which is good to see on our long side. More sectors are starting to weaken here. So this S&P is still positive though. Even oil has softened from the highs. Look at that move in gold. Gold has fallen, now negative. Silver's also falling, negative on the session, down another 0.7%. Alright, Qs are starting to roll down a little bit here. So I'll stay with you for another couple minutes. I've given you the parameters of each trade. First Solar I'll likely hold overnight. PayPal I have a tight stop loss at 63.18 close, 63.18 5-minute close. Qs I've given you the target. Tesla's actually rolling over and going negative. So now this is the overall sentiment in the market. Tesla was keeping this market up because it was so strong. Look at that fade on Tesla. It is about to go negative on the trend, filling its gap. I would not buy this gap. Your next big level to go long on Tesla is likely going to be, just bear with me here. I mean, I really only see this breakaway gap here. That's going to be your long level on Tesla. Basically a test of this 169.80 level. If it came right into that, that's your day trade scalp level. Let's look at the Qs again. They are starting to roll a little bit. SQQ is still putting in bullish consolidation as the QQQ puts in bearish consolidation. Spiders are still trying to move a little bit lower here. Gold is also coming down. KRE's at the lows. Oil's seeing a bigger decline now. Alright, bigger drop coming in the markets now. Qs are pushing down. Alright, I just got stopped out of my PayPal here for a small little loss. A loss of 12 cents. It was a very tiny position. Stopped out of PayPal. Loss. 12 cents. I had 150 shares there. So it's a small little loss, but the QQQ, our SQQ is kind of insulating us now. SQQ is trying to make a move higher. Spiders are still rolling. Here comes a bigger decline in the Qs. And I actually am eyeing up Tesla for a long now. If Tesla actually pushes down to that 169.60 level, I would consider starting a position in Tesla. So we are coming down in Tesla. Keep that on your radar. Tesla Q is the Tesla inverse up 3%. Yes, it's a good move, the Tesla Q. Qs are still coming down here. Whoops, TSLQ. Let's get a huge bid. Obviously Tesla's coming in. Getting a small bounce now, so the Qs are likely getting a bounce as well. Meta's starting to see some weakness. Microsoft just made a new low. Dollar's still near the highs. You have the long end yields, the 10-year up to 3.42, the 20 years at 3.84. Meta's starting to see some more weakness. All indices are negative. Spiders, Qs, IWM, all negative. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sectors positive and 5 sectors negative. Even the Dow is fading now. So whenever you have the Dow also fading from the highs, that's generally a bearish sign for the market. If the Dow goes negative, that's going to be a little bit of a bigger downtrend starting, at least for today. First Solar's still hanging in. SQQ soaring. All right, I'm going to put a stop loss now, break even stop loss on my SQQ. So I'm going to erase that. And as we move up, so now your next support zone is this previous pivot. Look at this QQQ rollover, guys. Spiders are also at the lows. Dollar just made a new high, so markets are in trouble right now. Markets are fading pretty fast here. Qs are getting a bounce though. So tons and tons of weakness still in the Qs. I'm looking at Tesla for a long. That's still an interesting play to me. Coinbase is rolling. AMD is still rolling downhill. Commercial real estate is fading. You still have strength in the home builders. Silver's at the lows because the dollar's at the highs. PayPal's still exceptionally weak right now. First Solar seeing some more selling commencing. That's got a little intraday inside bar bear flag. So the Qs are trying to get a bid here. You can see that they're defending this pivot. This was a breakdown, big reversal. I still think you get through there. I still think you do. The dollar's much higher. Even oil's collapsing. Gold is collapsing. Bitcoin's seeing some resistance. Nvidia just had a big dump. So look at this QQQ coming down, guys. Let's watch this SQQ. Microsoft's at the lows. Apple's testing the lows. Alright guys, I'm going to move my stop to about 10 cents in the money. 10 cents in the money on my SQQ. 28.36 is my stop now. 28.36. I'm protecting this trade. I am protecting this trade. I want to bank at least some money on this trade. So we are seeing it roll. I still have an upside target of this red bar breakdown because the Qs and Nvidia are falling sharply here. Look at this fall in the Qs. First Solar's still okay. Markets are trying to get a small bounce. Dollar's still at the highs. Gold is pretty much reversed. Wow, big sell-off coming in the Qs here. All right, we're getting another push up. Microsoft's still seeing a lot of weakness. Tesla's now negative. Tesla is now negative. Looks like we're heading for a clear downtrend on the day, and we'll see if it lasts. QQQ, let's flip back to that. They're catching a little minor bid here off the lows. So protect the trade. I will stop out with a 10-cent profit here. I only have 500 shares on the SQQ here. So it's about a $50 profit, but we're going to be banking more now. All right. We'll keep pushing up here. We are pushing up higher. Alright guys, I'm moving my stop up to this green bar high, this 28.39. So we're locking in 13 cents times 500 shares. Qs are still rolling down hard here. Nvidia, Apple's making a new low. I'm still interested in Tesla for a long trade. All right, bigger drop coming in Apple here. Apple should help lift the SQQ a little more. Spiders are still falling. There's a gap fill on Apple at 171.79, which could be a long trade as well. Spiders are at the lows. Another big dip coming in the markets here. Another big dip. Look at these Qs. They're almost to target. Look at the spiders. They're also falling sharply. You have more sectors turning red now. More sectors are turning red. Notice how we talked about that failed breakout at the top of the wedge. Now you're coming down to the low end of the wedge. Let's see what we get here. Let's see if we can get a final push up there to target. Apple's trying to get a bounce. Nvidia, Microsoft's trying to get a bounce. I'm still looking at Apple for a long. All right, I just stopped out at 28.38 here. 28.39 for a 13-cent gain on the Qs times 500 shares. Nice little win on that aspect. Again, the trend is looking down, so we got to make sure that we can look for some setups to continue this downside move if we get more bearish consolidation. So the Qs are getting a little bit of a bounce. Let's check on First Solar. That's okay. PayPal is catching a small bounce here as well. I'm interested in maybe going long PayPal here, but the dollar's still surging higher. So I'm going to wait. Let's look at these Qs. All right, I've given you the parameters on the trade since it's over 10:38. I am probably going to call this stream to an end. I appreciate your help. IEA, definitely a nice little comments there, putting the SQQ on the radar for people. So nice job there. Thank you for that little insight there. That was a good little trade. IE, I'm just reading through some of your comments here. Yep, Tesla Q's up. Google and Etsy are holding barely. Nice play. Etsy's holding. Let's take a look at Etsy and Google, just so you mentioned it. Yeah, Etsy's holding up in a weak market. It's up 0.58%, so clear relative strength play. I do anticipate the market's going to break down a little bit more. Look at the surge on the dollar. If the dollar keeps holding these gains, it's likely going to push these markets a little bit lower. So what my recommendation is, what I'm looking for, is bearish consolidation. If we get a sideways pattern or even a retrace back to this zone, it is another short, and you just play it how we played it before, where you use a stop loss back above this neckline. So I am looking at a potential short. If you look at Google, Google obviously has been strong off of its investor earnings, so I have been day trading this, but this range is just incredibly tight. And this is so far bullish consolidation. Even if you look on the hourly, it's all inside of this initial green bar hourly candle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours of consolidation. This could make another move up to the high of the range. If you got to move to the high, it may be a little bit of a short intraday short opportunity. But as of now, Google's holding up. I do think it's extended, but it's holding up, so we have to respect that at this point in time. Well, that was some good trades right now. Obviously, First Solar, we're out of the money, but I think that one it's a swing trade as well, so that one should see some downside as the market, especially if the markets break down. But again, I'm looking for bearish patterns here off these levels, and we'll see if we kind of get that. But right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sectors red, all indices red. Let's do a Dow check. The Dow Jones is still positive, just positive. So pay attention to that Dow, because if it starts to roll down, we're going to see more downside in this market. And you're already seeing the Qs seeing a little more weakness right now. So there may be a little bit of a trend play to the downside, but I'm waiting for more of a bearish pattern. Kind of if you look at this consolidation, this bearish breakdown, you got 5, 10, 15, 20, and on your 25th, your 5 red candle, you got a breakdown. So if you see another 5 minutes of 5 red candles, sideways consolidation, you could use that as a bearish play to the downside. but it is looking likely that this trend may be starting to head lower today. But the overall theme in this market is every time we've had a big dip, when the volume lightens up in the end of the day, we just see buy the dippers come in and rip it back higher. I'm not seeing that today because the dollar is so much stronger, but you just never know in a lighter volume environment, which is why we have to use stop losses, tight stop losses, to protect our trades no matter what. And I even am seeing Nvidia weak, so it looks like semis are a downtrending name today. I think if you pick on AMD and Nvidia, they're going to be a lot weaker. AMD did fill that gap, but we did trigger that head and shoulders. All right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Congrats on the trades today. We'll just watch First Solar, which I've given you the parameters on. I'm looking for a 210 or even a 207 cover, which I do think is possible today, especially if the markets end weak. On that note, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the charts next week. Definitely stay tuned for some sector analysis that I'll be posting on our channel. And have a good weekend. Get some sunshine if you're in a warmer climate, and get some time away from the screens. Ground yourselves to the earth, and be ready for a crazy next week trading session. Take care, everybody. Yeah, I should have said that.